and we'll talk about all of those things. How to become a school counselor, um, other like mental health careers within the profession, why I do this impactful work. We'll also discuss like salary and benefits because that's important. I think that students should understand and know kind of what your future would look like financially if this is something that you decide, or even if you're not thinking about school counseling, you should think about what do salary and benefits look like for you for what career you're entering into, right? I think that sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves and not always do all the research. So that's very important. And then sort of like professional organizations that are out there. And then we'll wrap up with like questions, thoughts, and how to reach out to me. So I am a school counselor and department chair. So I'm kind of like a leader on my campus. And I'm on the east side at Desert Pines High School. It's my 6th year there, and I've done all of my school counseling experiences there. I did have to do a year-long internship, which is unpaid, and we'll talk about that in a couple more slides. Just like you guys are doing an internship that's unpaid, at the master's level, you have to do internships for a lot of these degrees like social work, school counseling, marriage and family therapy. And that's something else to think about, the unpaid internships. If you think that the 140 hours was tough to do unpaid, imagine if you're asked to do 700 hours or 3,000 hours. So that is something that is real and to think about. So I'm on the east side of Las Vegas. I love it over there. Largely a Latinx community. There are struggles, but I also see the strengths within the community that I serve. I have a large department. There's 10 of us, which most high schools will have like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Really depends on student population size and the support of your administration. I'm also a national certified school counselor. I'll talk a little bit about how I got that national certification. And I also have the national certified counselor. And so I'll talk about how that process takes place and sort of the benefit of being national certified. And then I'm also interim lecturer here at Nevada State College for this year. And then I'll go back into my role of adjuncting like I had been doing before. But I've taught Psych 101, so some of you guys may have had me for Psych 101. I've also taught Counseling 300. Some of you may have had me for Counseling 300. I've taught Counseling 315. Some of you may have had me for Counseling 315. And then I'm adding Psych/Counseling 497 this course. In the spring, I'll be teaching it. So I'm excited to sort of teach this course, but that's mainly what I've taught. Looking forward, looking ahead, I'm looking to teach another course for like next year, but you guys will all be gone by then. But I am staying here at the institution, so it's nice. I want to talk a little bit about my story. I think that's important to sort of personalize some of this. I think oftentimes people talk about their profession and you never really understand like how did they even get into that profession, or what did it even take? What was like the totality of that experience? And I think that's something to consider. So like all of you, you have a story and that story will impact others out in the field. So do I. So my story is full of twists and turns and ups and downs and good things and bad things. But I was born and raised right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have never moved and lived in another city, state, anything like that. And so all of my experiences come from this, like growing up in Las Vegas. So I was born and raised in a single parent household. So I grew up with a single mom and my older brother who's 8 years older and was in and out of the juvenile justice system. And so it was just the three of us. And so my mom has worked in housekeeping and still does to this day. And so we were a working class family, just trying to get by. If rent went up, then we moved. So I ended up going to 6 elementary schools. So like my education was always changing due to socioeconomics. And my mom kind of preached this message of go to college, get your education, become someone. You don't want to do like hard work, manual labor. You want to kind of get a good job and be better and do better. And my mom didn't even graduate from high school. She really could not navigate me down this road, but she had the foresight to know that her Black son would be better off with a college degree and wherever that took him. And so that was the messaging within our household. I had never lived in a house until I was an adult because we moved from apartment to apartment to apartment. And there were instances that we would have to go live with one of my aunts and cousins because of socioeconomics, right? And so I think that that's had a huge part on like my career development and sort of things like that. So I also have 3 kids. And so my oldest is, he's a sophomore. And then my middle is a 4th grader. And then my youngest is a 1st grader. So I've got 3 sons. And so they've been such a blessing and they're a part of all of this because I, went to college with a child and went to get my master's degree with children and got a PhD with children. And so they've been along for this roller coaster ride, if you will, as well. The center picture is when I graduated from basic high school in 2009. I'm telling my age at this point. And that was just a very, that was like a big moment, right? Graduating from high school was sort of like getting my doctorate, right? In my household, like no one had graduated from high school and this was sort of the ticket to something more. So after leaving basic, I came here to Nevada State College. And thank goodness for our small classroom size, our amazing faculty, sort of, helping me navigate through this process. Got my bachelor's degree in psychology. And I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what's next, but I had an idea that I had started substitute teaching towards the end of my bachelor's degree program. And I knew that I liked working with students. I knew that I wanted to work with like high schoolers. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but really, I was more so like, I love psychology. And I was like, boom, psychology and high schoolers could equal career in school counseling. And I see Ashley, yep, born and raised in Las Vegas, and you're also a basic grad, so we have some things in common. And so I went to University of Phoenix, Las Vegas campus, and I did my master's degree in school counseling. I had to consider I had to consider my family. And so the model of going once a week for 4 hours worked for me. I had talked to a lot of school counselors around the district and they liked the faculty in the program. It was a cohort style. So it was all 12 of us through a 3-year master's degree program. And so everyone, and I think 2 people from my master's aren't school counselors. The rest of them are. And so I call them or we email each other or I meet up with them, and we're all in our 6th year. So I've known these people for 10 years at this point. So you build these relationships, FYI, when you go off to that master's degree program. And then after my master's, I just decided to take things one step further and get the PhD. I knew that I wanted to work in higher ed and be in the field. And so I knew that the doctorate would sort of help open those doors. And so I'm totally glad that I did the PhD at UNLV, and that was an amazing experience. Um, and so I sort of want to get a sense of who's in the room. If we could maybe have like 2 or 3 people kind of just say hello, your name, class standing, major, minor. And if you're interested in school counseling, or like school psychologist, school social work, something like that, just sort of want to get a sense of who's here.
So I have an interest in doing school counseling in the future. My major is psychology with a minor in education. And I was considering doing the master's program at UNLV for school counseling, which I'm kind of sad because I have a meeting for my internship at 7. This is a meeting that I really wanted to be a part of because I need to know these things, so I'm really sad. But I'm still kind of considering, need to do a little more research, want to go to the grad school workshops and stuff, and just to get a better understanding. But I know that I do want to work with high schoolers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have to leave at 7, I think we can get through some of the stuff, but you can just send me an email, and I don't mind meeting with you separately to answer some of your questions.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
But nice to meet you.
And also to Betsy, Dr. Limbrick gave us permission to record this, so I will post this, so you can always, in the meantime, review what we've covered.
I'm Caitlin, and I only have a couple more semesters left. Well, actually, that includes this semester because I'm taking one more class after this, and I'm hoping to become a CPC.
Nice to meet you, Caitlin.
I actually took counseling skills and human services with you a couple semesters ago.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. The name sounds familiar. Yes. Some names, I just look at names for 16 weeks and then somehow I'm like, that name sounds familiar. But nice to meet you, and you.
I forget almost everyone's name, so. Awesome. But it's nice to see you here.
And Caitlin's webcam isn't working, so because we were chatting earlier, so otherwise I'm sure you get to see her. So how about just a couple more? Yeah, let's hear from just a few more students.
I'm Brandon. I'm a senior. I graduate this semester. My major is psychology. My minor is substance abuse counseling, but I don't think I'm going to go into substance abuse counseling. And then my plans, just to kind of see what the options are. I like working with like at-risk youth and those types of populations, but I'm a product of the school district, Clark County, number 50th out of 50. But I've had some not so great experiences with school counselors, and so I'd like to kind of get a better perspective. You seem kind of like a counselor that's actually engaged. I never experienced those during my school years in Clark County. So it's nice to see what it's about, and I'll definitely have some hard questions for you later.
That's fine, Brandon. Nice to meet you, and I hope that this is a way to work with students. We do have students that are, maybe heading down the wrong path, hanging out with the wrong crowd, gotten into some trouble. So there is that aspect of at risk going on. That theme is absolutely throughout schools. But hopefully by the end of this, maybe you would consider the career field. I'm reading Lisa Rodriguez, or Elizabeth, I apologize. Last semester. Oh, nice to meet you. You're looking to go to UNLV for that licensed clinical mental health. Never thought about school counseling. FYI, Elizabeth, I have a lot of friends that did the UNLV program. They actually take a lot of the same classes together with the school counseling folks. And then at some point within the program, they bridge off. So that's something to consider. So you'll kind of be around those people, and yeah, so that's something to consider. And then also with all of, I think COVID has really opened people up to mental health. So the state has implemented, you can become a, what is it called? A mental health professional. You would get a license through the Nevada Department of Education. So like if you are, let's say like a marriage and family therapist, or you are like a licensed practicing counselor or anything like that, you can now work in a school and like provide therapeutic services because of your licensure allows you to do that. So that they're now bringing those people into school buildings. So that's something to consider. But I'll move forward in the presentation today. So like, what is school counseling? So school counselors are certified licensed educators, right? So we are educators, right? Who improve student success for all students by implementing a comprehensive school counseling program. We are considered mental health professionals within schools. And so we assist with sort of these 3 domains within our field, which are social emotional, which could be students coming to your office crying, maybe they're going through grief and loss, something to that effect. Or academic, so thinking about making sure a student is progressing towards graduation, or making sure that students are challenging themselves and maybe instead of taking a regular course, they're going to take an honors or AP or dual enrollment. Those sort of academic aspects of sort of, preparing them for the next step, whatever that is. And then career, so career development. So helping students plan for the future. What do they want to do when they graduate from, let's say, high school? Do they want to go to the military? Do they want to go to college? Do they want to go to trade school? Do they want to go to the workforce? Those sorts of things. So we give students the tools to be successful when they leave the K-12 system, right? We make sure that they know how to self-regulate, self-advocate, time management, right? All of those skills that they'll need throughout life, right? So we focus in on those domains within the profession. So I'll break that down a little bit on more of like what that is. So it's like individual academic planning, helping them set goals. We also do like classroom lessons. So we might do a lesson on, let's say, maybe like a bully prevention lesson, or you're going to do a lesson about career planning, right? So you're going to have them take like a career inventory to see what are their interests for what career field they'll go into in the future, right? We do, you would sort of craft a lesson to meet your audience. So if you're elementary, you might do something of how to be kind or a good friend or something like that, right? Something to their level. Or if at middle school, you might do something about, not really sure, but something relative to middle schoolers and high schoolers, right? So crafting those lessons. Also providing like short-term counseling, right? So we're not like therapists, but we are able to counsel students about things that are going on. Like they're going through things in their lives at home that are affecting them, right? And they bring those things to school with them. So when I say short term, I mean like 3 or less visits, right? So like we shouldn't be like every day at 3 or every day at 10 o'clock, come and see me. Like that is not what your licensure allows you to do. You should not be doing that. You would want to go ahead and get that student referred to someone out in the field, like let's say, licensed clinical social worker, a marriage and family therapist, or something like that to provide those long-term supports. We also collaborate with families, teachers, administrators, the community. I'm all about building partnerships. So I'll meet someone out in the community and I think that it's a benefit to my school community. I'll invite them to campus, right? Our kids need to know about these professions or sort of these services that are available to them within the community, right? So bringing those people to campus to talk to your students. We do things like data analysis. So like identifying like student needs, their challenges. That can be maybe looking at testing data to see maybe they're outperforming their peers. So maybe they need more advanced, courses or curriculum, those sorts of things. We also act as a change agent within the system, right? So thinking about equity and access and achievement and opportunities for all students, right? We educate all students, and thinking about some of the barriers and challenges that come with some of our LGBTQ youth, dismantling that school to prison pipeline, and like reducing barriers for Black and brown skinned students, right? So thinking about those things. So we're an agent for change as well, right? So that social justice piece. So I'm gonna break this down and sort of talk about like counseling at the high school level, and that's what I know best. That's what I've been doing for this is my 6th year. And so thinking about like, what will my caseload be? So like most schools like break it down by like alpha. So it's like based on your last name, or in some instances it's based on grade level, right? And so you're assigned that caseload, right? And so that is your caseload. And so in some instances you could have 400 to 500 students, a very large caseload of students. At the high school level, I would say one of your main priorities is ensuring students graduate. So building their schedule, helping them plan as far as their 4-year plan while they're in high school, what classes they're going to take that freshman year versus that sophomore year versus that junior year versus that senior year. You're also having to make sure those credits can add up, right? Students need 23 credits to graduate with a standard diploma, 24 credits to graduate with, like, let's say a college and career ready diploma. You really have to know the curriculum, right? You need to know that sophomores take world history, juniors take US history, right? You'll learn those things, but you really need to know sort of how to get a student graduated, because that's what they're gonna need when they leave to go off to their next phase in life. You also provide counseling to students who are in crisis. I'll be in my office and I'll have a student show up, they're having, let's say, a panic attack, right? And they're coming down, shivering, they're shaking, they need to talk to someone, they need to cool down, they need to talk this out. And so you need to stop what you're doing and now help that student, right? We have suicidal ideation, students that want to kill themselves, right? And so finding out, sort of, we do a protocol is what we call it, to sort of figure out what's the severity. Is this low? Is this moderate? Is this high? Is this imminent, right? So if a student says, I want to kill myself, that protocol sort of helps you understand what's the severity, what's the level of risk, and then getting those parents involved, getting that student to a mental health professional so that some of those concerns can be addressed, right? We help with grief and loss, right? All of those tough things are coming to your office. Classroom lessons. So like I said earlier, we'll do lessons on academics, or we'll do lessons on social emotional, getting into those classrooms, making sure that our students are hearing that information. You facilitate a parent-teacher conference. You become sort of that middleman in that parent-teacher conference when, maybe there's some type of dispute or misunderstanding, right? You're sort of helping facilitate that conversation between teacher, student, and parent. You also sit on what we call a gender support team. So let's say for some of our students that are what we call gender diverse, right? So thinking about, well, I want to use the preferred restroom, locker room, pronouns, having their name changed within our student management system, right? You're an agent of change to to help sort of guide a student through that process. You are sort of encouraging students as well. You're a motivator, right? We wear many hats. So you're making sure that kid is sort of being able to juggle maybe working a job, attending school, sort of their future, their family, little siblings. When I got into the field, I didn't understand entirely that students at least in my school community, they also are like sort of a parent to their younger siblings, right? So they've got to help with maybe drop off or pick up, homework, work a job, attend school, right? All of these things, right? And sort of you're sort of encouraging students, right? You're also like a pseudo admin, right? So you're seen as a leader on the campus. You're seen as someone that the school community looks up to. You know, sort of all of the kids are going to know who you are because you're one of the school counselors. Whereas like if you're a teacher, kids are only going to know you if they're like in your class, right? If they're in that class, that's their teacher. Whereas when you're a school counselor, everybody's going to know you. Everybody interacts with you, right? You also help with, you write 504 accommodations, similar to like some of the services that like the Disability Resource Center here on campus provides. We do that same thing at the K-12 level. And then you are also doing like post-secondary planning, writing letters of recommendation, helping students apply for college, helping students fill out FAFSA applications. All of those things. You're also, you're a planner, right? So you're planning and hosting senior awards, FAFSA nights, half-cap ceremonies, different things to recognize students and keep them motivated and going. So we do so much more, but I just threw some things on here so that you will kind of know what we do at the high school level. Middle school level, this is only from some of the things that I've heard and seen and just knowing what goes on at the middle school. They'll typically only have like 2 or 3 counselors on the campus because everything's sort of based on how many students attend the school, right? So high schools are large, right? 2,800, 2,900, 3,000 students, a lot more school counselors to support those students. Whereas middle school campuses could have 1,500 students, right? So you're gonna need less school counselors on that. I mean, you really need more, right? But the justification has been there's less students, less school counselors on the campus. Very similar to high school as far as like a lot of the things that we do, but the focus is not on graduation. It's more on the social emotional piece and just thinking about where students are in their developmental stage. So going back to some of those earlier psychology classes that you took, what's going on at the middle school level, right? So a lot of things are more social emotional, you know, they're discovering themselves, right? So that's where the student is. And then I've heard it's like the balance, right? So it's the nice balance of the social emotional piece, the academic piece, and the career piece. So it's kind of the nice balance of all 3 at the middle school level. Elementary, they are, in most instances, you're alone, right? So if you're okay with being alone, the only school counselor servicing that whole elementary campus, that's typically the reality, right? So they're big on classroom lessons. They do a lot of groups. We have divorce groups, grief and loss groups, behavioral strategies. You're really helping them in the early stages of their education. So just thinking about what you were going through in elementary and all of, you know, the changes are like a kindergartner, the first day of school, they might have never been away from their parents. Maybe there's tears and sort of those sorts of things, helping a student calm down and know that everything's going to be okay. And maybe for a 5th grader, helping them prepare for the next level, which is middle school, where you have that independence of your schedule. You got to get from class to class to class, right? And so you're providing those tools and strategies, right? It's great if you want to work with the little kids and you want to work with the smaller kiddos. That's good for you. That's not something that's for me. So maybe know your strengths. I knew that I have small children at home. I don't necessarily want to go to work and work with small children as well. I like that I have my small children at home, and I'm going to go work with high schoolers who are like mini adults at this point, right? They can have a conversation. You can keep it real with them, right? That is the population that I wanted to serve. So I want to talk a little bit about how you become a school counselor. So you do need a master's degree in school counseling, right? It has to be in school counseling. Typically, these are 48 graduate credit programs. There are some programs that are 60 credits, and those programs typically are setting you up to get your LPC, right? So some are 48, some are 60, just depends on where you're going. It does require a 600-hour internship unpaid in addition to a 100-hour practicum. So practicum, you're kind of shadowing, like job shadowing, whereas internship, you're doing the work, right? You're kind of put in that driver's seat and sort of doing the job, right? You do have to obtain a state educator license through the Nevada Department of Education or whatever state you're residing in. You do go through their like sort of teacher their teacher licensing board, okay? I do recommend that you work towards your NCSC, which is National Certified School Counselor, and that NCC, National Certified Counselor. The big perk in Nevada, I don't know about other states, but the big perk in Nevada is a 5% stipend on top of your salary for having that nationally recognized certification. It does require that you've been a school counselor for 2 years. You do have to pass a tough exam. It's a 200 multiple choice exam. And then you have to do like 100 hours of like supervision with someone who already has that particular certification. I guess I haven't been monitoring the chat. Let me just make sure I haven't missed someone. So
yeah, I think we've been good. Thanks, bye, Betsy. We've had a very engaged group, so just Betsy's comment.
Sorry, can you remind me what were the minimum credentials to become a school counselor? I would say it's the master's primarily. You need that 48 graduate credit master's in school counseling, and then it includes your internship. So it's not like something you have to do after you graduate. I don't know if Dr. Miranda's talked about sort of things that potentially you have to do after you graduate for like, let's say marriage and family therapy or something like that. But school counseling, you do the program. It's usually 2 years, typically. I've seen some for 3. And then once you graduate, you're ready to go into the field. You don't need to do anything extra.
So basically the internship is while you're in your master's program.
Correct.
Okay. So you've got your practicum and your internship all while you're taking classes or wrapping up your program. And so, yeah, so then you're done, you can get a paid position.
Correct. Absolutely. And so that's sort of it, what's needed at bare minimum. I do want to talk about other mental health careers in schools. Now, I'm by no means a school psychologist or school social worker, but these are people that I interact with and I'm familiar with the work that they do, right?
I love that you're going over this because sometimes the term school counselor and school psychologist can get utilized interchangeably when they're pretty distinct positions and processes.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. People sort of think we're the same. We're not. We're not the same. So school psychologists, they have much larger caseloads. And if you're thinking about going into school psychology, highly recommend. We need more school psychologists if that's something you're interested in. Typically, they'll have a school, so the whole school is their caseload, or they'll have maybe 2 schools, what we call like a split assignment. So they're kind of spread thin, potentially, just depending on the circumstance. Their duties, at least here, are primarily around assessment for special education. So testing students to sort of see what supports, what do they need to be successful, right? And you need an EDS in school psychology. Those are typically like 60 credit hour programs. I've seen the programs typically require like a 1,200 hour internship, and it could be paid or unpaid. I think it kind of depends. But that is something that we do need here in schools. We also need school social workers. Their caseloads, again, it depends. They could be alone at a school, or they could have a partner at a school. And so their role is sort of like, it kind of varies on the school site, but it could be things, generally speaking, about behavior supports, assisting with like mental health. A lot of them can provide more of the like counseling students, just more, I would say maybe more in-depth things, right? Some of our school social workers have their clinical, so they're like licensed clinical social workers. And so they maybe do groups, therapy services. It really sort of depends, but you would have to get a master's degree in social work, which are typically 60 graduate credit programs. Internships could range kind of depending on the program. I've seen things like 900 hours to 1,200 hours. And then you would get your license, you would have to get licensed through the Board of Examiners for Social Workers, and then come and get your licensure from the Nevada Department of Education. But we do need both of these people as well, in addition to school counselors. So we need mental health professionals all together in schools. So I want to talk about money. I want to talk about salary. I think that that's super important, and I'm going to be very transparent with you. You are, due to like contract negotiations, because we do have a teachers union here in Clark, you're considered a teacher, so you fall under all of the union negotiations for that. I don't know if you guys saw some of the news this summer as far as them bumping up that minimum teacher salary. So it does start out at $50K, and it does cap out at $101,000. So we're in a good spot, right? I know that there's maybe been discussions around teachers don't make a lot of money, all of those different things. I want to maybe provide some context to that, because it's not entirely true. You do have to do additional stuff to make more money. That just happens to be the way it is in order to get a pay increase. But if you do work at the secondary level, we work an extra 9 days in our contractual year. So you get paid for those extra days that you work. So it can range from an extra $2,000 to $5,000 on top of your base salary, because those are extra days on top of your salary, or on top of your 184. We work 184 days, so you're working technically a couple more days, so they have to compensate you for those. Then if you get the NCSC, you would get that 5% stipend on top of that base salary. So that could be anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000, just depending on where you are on that salary schedule. And then you can do like extra things like summer school or coach, or do little things to get additional money. And so that can be your hourly rate based on your base salary is what you're paid for that. So 50,000 starting, not bad, but with the potential of the 101. So, and the way it works is you have to do like additional things, like additional professional development or additional things to move across the salary schedule. So depends what school you're at. So if you're at we call them 2-year track schools, which are more of like the Title I schools, you can move every 2 years. If you're at a non-Title I school, you would move like every 3 years, right? So you get to move on that salary schedule when you do extra things. Some of these things do cost money, right? And so you pay for these additional things to move across the salary schedule. I'm in my 6th year. I'm going to be transparent with you guys. I make $70,000. So that's where I'm at. 6th year, 70K. Okay. And so I've been very aggressive with that salary schedule and moving across.
Which we'll get to in a second, which is not 365 days a year, by the way.
Yeah, correct. A lot of our pay increases are around what's going on in the state of Nevada. How is the state of Nevada doing economically, right? So that has that sort of impacts you because we're paid from state dollars, right? There's also, you would get a $1,300 step increase yearly. This is supposed to be for more of like cost of living. And then those column advancements that I talked about moving every 2 to 3 years are $5,500. So that's sort of how much money you're looking at getting when you make that jump, right? For doing that extra that you had to do. We also do get longevity pay. So after 10 years of service, you start that longevity pay. It starts at $750 a year, and then I think it goes up to $2,000 after like 26 years of service. So there's that extra little bump there. Time off, so great for traveling. I love traveling personally. We travel a lot. And so with my schedule, we're able to do that. So this summer, I went to Cancun. We went on a cruise. We went to Georgia. I went to Austin. I did a lot this summer. I think I was on the road for most of the summer. Next summer, I got plans, Bahamas. So like there's things that you're able to do because you know you got the summer off. You know when your holidays, when you know there's no school, then you're not working. So if the kids are not at school, then you are not at school. So we work 184 days a year.
I mean, that's like that again, that's just amazing, you know, like for the type of salary that you can make and have summers and holidays off, and great for parents for traveling. I mean, that's amazing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Sick days, we get 15 sick days a year. They do build up, so you can accrue those days over the time that you're with the district. So you just accrue those sick days. We also have a pension. This is very much unheard of in this day and age. And so what our pension looks like is 75% of your salary after 33 and a half years of service. So you do 33 and a half years of service, you'll get 75% of your top 3 years of service. So let's say you retired at $100,000, you would get $75,000 a year until you take your last breath, okay? So you do have a pension, which is really nice. And then we have health insurance through Teachers Health Trust. The insurance to me is good. I know there's been complaints by others. Some people might tell you it's not as what it used to be, but it's still good insurance. Like, for example, to see a doctor is $15 copay, things like that. And then sort of the job security that comes with our job, right? So we have a teacher shortage, we have a counselor shortage, we have a shortage, right? So there's security within that. You're unionized, so there's security with being in a union and those sorts of things. So it's nice to have that protection, knowing that I can't just be let go, right? I would have to do something very, very, very bad to get let go, okay?
I was just
Why
going to pause here for just like a quick question, if there were any questions.
Yes, questions.
Any questions here?
Question. I have a question for you. So you make 70,000 pre or post tax, and then how much are your dues that you pay for the union every month? And I mean, like the school district now, basically to be a substitute, you just have to be a high school graduate and 4 hours of some type of training. So how does that make you feel when, you know, these people are entering the same business that you are, that you spend all this time and money to advance your education, and you have high school kids becoming teachers after 4 hours of training?
Yeah. So the 70 is gross, so before taxes are taken out. Your union contribution, and you don't have to be in the union. That's something that you have the choice. It's a right to work state. So that is, I want to say like $32 per check. And then as far like, I guess I can only really like, you know, I understand there's challenges with there not being enough teachers to fulfill some of these positions. We've always had substitute teachers. I think that we don't have enough teachers and we don't have enough substitute teachers. And I think that people are trying to find solutions. And I think I'm more focused about school counseling and sort of those things. I don't really have too many answers about the other challenges. There are challenges, and I think that we know the challenges surrounding education, and we need more people like all of you in this room to join forces with us. Is sort of how I would answer those questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brandon.
Lisa, yep, this does apply to school psychologists. They're still considered teachers on the teacher salary schedule, so the same things would apply. I'm not sure if they work add-on days or not, so I don't have that answer. But if they do, then they would be you would be compensated for those days. I don't know about the like the 5% stipend. That's something I don't know. I don't know if their sort of national certificate looks like.
And we, again, appreciate your transparency in all this, because this is an area where a lot of professionals shy away from. And so, you know, before students make a choice or decide how much, if they decide to accrue student debt, or trying to make a decision, you know, as far as what might be the best, I don't know, just best salary and schedule choices that fits their family, this helps tremendously. So this is much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Frida, charter schools, just from what I know, a lot of this doesn't apply. My recommendation would be, just from what I know, they don't get paid as much money. How do I say that? That's a they don't have maybe some of the union components sort of helping move the pay schedule further. But I guess if we're having to look at dollars, you would be better off with a school district.
Mhm.
I
Great.
want
Thank
to
you.
talk a little bit about like why I do this work. It's so impactful. I love the work that I do. Just impacting students' lives. I love like graduation, seeing all of my students walk across that stage and earn their high school diplomas. Just like you're just able to make such a huge impact. If you think about the impact that people in school from your K through 12 journey made on you. And then I work with a phenomenal team who are friends, really, they're like family at this point. And so I work with an amazing group of individuals. I do it for my kids. I knew that I wanted to sort of match their schedule and be home when they're home. And even if thinking about like daycare expense and things like that, like summer camps and things like that, I knew that this would be a better fit for my family. And so that's one of the big things that was important for me. I wanted to also kind of go over some of the professional organizations that we have. So we, school counselors, are big on ASCA, which is the American School Counselor Association. Amazing organization. I love going to the ASCA conference every year. It was held this past summer in Austin, Texas. So it was nice to be around thousands of school counselors who are just motivated and wanting to help students. And then there's also the National Association of School Psychologists, as well as the School Social Work Association of America. And so there are some of these professional organizations that have resources and tools and like grad program information about your roles and responsibilities. Those sorts of things are critical. So that's something I just wanted to throw out here. And then any questions that anyone has about this amazing profession, please come and join in.
So yes, either unmuting yourself or raising your hand or the chat button. So we'll allow a few minutes here just to have a little Q&A and just use this time as a resource. So I encourage everybody. So Janelle is asking, how do you balance your caseload?
Whew, it's hard. So it's tough because I have so many students. Okay, let me go back for a second. I guess I am in a fortunate position. So I'm department chair, so I have like this leadership component to my role. So I have about 200 students on my caseload, but it's still tough to meet with all 200, to get to know all 200, right? And on top of like sort of making sure students graduate, assisting students that coming to my office, maybe having some type of crisis, trying to work with like, let's say colleges and universities, bring them to campus to expose our students to the programs and things that they offer, on top of like meetings, on top of calling parents back, meeting with parents. There is a lot. It is a juggle. But I love it, right? I love the work that I do, but I would say that it's a juggle. I think that I have to sort of prioritize things someday, like, okay, today's priority is this, and then I can come into work and then something happens and 3 hours of my day are gone because a student needed my time and attention, and that was more important. So no 2 days are the same. Like no 2 days are the same. I wake up every day energized to go to work. I've never not liked going to work. And so I think that's like my response.
And speaking of balance, the discussion post that the students have this week and the the information is about the importance of self-care. I know it's a buzzword, but really distinguishing what self-care is. It's not just going to get your nails done or getting, an ice cream once a week. It's something that's intentional and part of a regular routine. Would you be willing to share a little bit what you practice or support for self-care?
Yeah, I think that I do many things. I would say one thing that I've been prioritizing is going to the gym. So about 4 times a week, just going to the gym, powering through that stress. I think as soon as I get into my car, there's some days where I hear tough things. So when I get into my vehicle, I turn on my music and blast away. I think spending time with my children. I think watching TV. We really like watching I like documentaries, and I also like watching like crime TV. So those sorts of things. Spending time with like friends, social gatherings. Just sort of keeping yourself going to professional development, going to conferences. I love going to conferences, sort of staying relevant, just many things to sort of keep you going. You don't want to become that person who hates their profession, and that could be school counseling, or that could be case management, that could be a therapist. You're taking in a lot. People are dumping a lot, and sort of knowing how to let some of that go is important.
Agree 100%.
And let's not forget, maybe seeing a therapist yourself, right?
100% support.
So like, we got to practice what we preach. So that is something that if you need to talk to someone, whether that's once a month, once a week, once a year, right? Whatever that looks like for you.
Definitely. Really support that. Yeah, and I imagine your hours, you're up early, but you wrap up your day relatively early.
I do. So my contractual time is 7 a.m. to 2:11. So I'm up at 5:30, and I'm back home about 2:45. With my commute, I live relatively far from my school. I'm about 30 minutes from my school. So my commute's a little bit further, but if you lived, I know, some people live really close to their schools, and it doesn't take them that long to get home. But 7 to 2:11, not bad hours. So like, let's say if you need to go to a doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, or something like that, you could still kind of make that appointment.
Right.
Versus like a 8 to 5 or something like that. So that's
like something to think about. So just open up the floor for just kind of any last minute questions before we wrap up. Got a shyer group today. I was showing off. I was telling Dr. Limbrick, this is a really engaged group. But you all have been engaged, but it's just been a tiny bit quieter.
Is that schedule similar for school social? Yep, it would be the same. So we work 7 hours and 11 minutes. Contractually, everybody works 7 hours and 11 minutes. So if you have kids that are in school, those teachers technically only have to be there for 7 hours and 11 minutes. And so it kind of depends on the start and end time of the school day for the kids. So because I'm high school, we start early. But if I was maybe middle school, I would maybe start at, let's say, like 8 o'clock, or maybe even closer to 9 o'clock. Same thing for elementary. Maybe it would be like 8 o'clock, closer to 9 o'clock, depending on the start and end time for the kiddos. It would sort of dictate your schedule. So I you know, being high school, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even mess with middle school or elementary. That would be a no for me. So that sort of depends. But yeah, same thing for school psychologists, school social workers. Everybody would just work that same 7 hours and 11 minutes. We have another question rolling in. What are the changes or adjustments you have to make when counseling high school students versus college students? Well, I don't counsel college students. So is your question sort of like if you were thinking about maybe being like an academic advisor at the college versus being a high school counselor? Is that the question, or can you unmute yourself? Oh yeah. So it is about like academic advising versus high school counseling. I mean, I'm not an academic advisor, but I guess I'll kind of like, I guess, make assumptions. But I would say the number one thing, and I don't know if you've talked about this necessarily in this class or out in the field, wherever you're doing your placement at, or in prior courses, but I would say the major difference between working with K-12 students or high schoolers versus college students would be that college students are adults, right? And high school students are children, right? And so they don't have as much autonomy necessarily to make all of their own decisions, right? So let's say a student really needs to go see an outside therapist, right? But the parent doesn't necessarily have, let's say, the means, right? Whether that's transportation, insurance, money, time is a resource, little do we know. That is a privilege to have time. Or they just don't see it as important. Let's just say, or they don't believe in it, right? It's much harder to help a child or a student or a high schooler get those necessary services than it is for an adult. An adult can sort of make all of their own choices, whether they're good choices or bad choices. They sort of have sort of the means to do it. I would say is primary. High schoolers, parents have to know about certain things, such as, let's say they had a thought of suicide. I've got to pick up the phone and call parents, let them know. College students, obviously, there might not be anyone that you don't need to call someone, right?
Right.
And then I would say, like, college students, just thinking about where all of you guys are, like, you're already in college, right? Someone helped you get here. You're by yourself. Someone helped you get here. So, you're just having to take your classes, navigate the college landscape, ultimately earn your degrees. Whereas high schoolers, we're trying to motivate them to even get, right? Maybe you're trying to, help them get that fee waiver to pay for the application, or help them fill out that FAFSA application, or helping them plan for how they're going to get to campus next year, because they're not going to have a school bus picking them up and taking them to school. They're going to maybe have to take public transportation or get a ride or buy a car or something like that. So it's very different, just where those two people are. I hope that sort of sheds light on the question. April says, I know the information stated the internship is unpaid. My question is, can you find paid internships for your master's, or does it only count if unpaid? So you're not allowed to have like a paid internship for school counseling. It's going to be unpaid. You're not allowed to be, you're not hireable. You don't have the credentials to do the job. So you're not even like, I've never seen a graduate program even allow a student to get paid. So that is a no. It's tough financially. That's something to plan for or think about. I will say that a lot, at least all my school counseling friends, we were broke. You were broke in your master's, broke trying to do that internship. Me personally, I had 3 kids at the time, and I did not even have like enough money to, like, we didn't have enough money. So it was a huge sacrifice. I subbed like 2 days a week, and then I would do my internship, because you have to think about, you have to do your internship while school's in session. So that's like 8 to 2 or 7 to 2 or somewhere in those times. So I would like go to my internship site, and then after interning, I worked part-time at the Boys and Girls Club just to get some money. But like, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty going through those internships. So like, I don't mean to joke or anything, but like this little 140 hours, like if this was tough, imagine trying to do like that 600 hours or 12.
So it's like basically like this times 4.
Yeah. Correct. And sort of relying on your familial capital, right? So, you know, my kids went to grandma's house. They did not go to a daycare or a baby.
Same here.
So thinking about sort of those things, or if maybe you have a partner that they're going to sort of know it's going to be a tough year, but once we get over this hump, it's good. So
I say it builds character and grit. Because I too can relate to trying to squeeze in part-time jobs while going to grad school and internship and being a single mom. So somehow we get through it. Yes. And become very resourceful on the other side.
Yes, you do.
Well, speaking of being resourceful, thank you, Dr. Limbrick, for being a resource for us tonight, and for just all this valuable information. It also gives us a good glimpse, like even like say an appreciation for what our school counselors do. So even if we don't go pursue the school counselor route, now we know like with who is available for our kids at the different levels, or if we want to later collaborate services. So maybe I'm as a CPC, I could connect with you on a child, and we can become a team for that individual. So this was just very insightful. So as always, we just thank you for your time. You're obviously very busy time and schedule, given that you're doing this, you're balancing and juggling quite a bit. And again, students, encourage everybody to just, Dr. Limbrick put his information there for a reason. So if you have questions about how do I apply for graduate school, is there anything I should include on my letters of intent? Should I do any volunteer work beforehand? Those are just maybe some things that Dr. Limbrick can help you with as you navigate this. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and just wrap up and give you some evening time before your bedtime. And thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And for sharing your story and for just being such an inspiration.
Thank you.
So lots of thank yous in the chat box.
Yes. Thank you, all of you. And finish the semester strong. And I will attend commencement in the spring. So I'll see you guys at commencement. If you're planning to walk, because we only do one commencement, right? I think.
Yes. I mean, I imagine soon we're going to expand to 2. It's getting pretty busy.
Yeah. So amazing work, and finish strong, and just keep doing amazing work out in the community.
So thank you for those great parting words. Good night, everybody, and hope to see you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.